Good morning, guys. Welcome to this Thursday, March 13th. And we are looking at a market which is kind of holding on. It would look to me to be a little bit on the weak side this morning. We were trading a lot of the trading was happening around that 56.10 level yesterday, roundabout, and the overnight has been pretty much below that. They'll be down here probing that 55.60s again. We'll see if they're going to be able to hold on to this, but so far in the overnight, it looks a little bit on the weak side. We do have news this morning, PPI coming out this morning at 8:30 in jobless claims. PPI could certainly move the markets. CPI yesterday had a pretty good reaction, at least to the upside, and then reversed it. And so whatever reactions you get, it can get reversed pretty quick. So it's just very, very volatile. But we'll see how that comes out and how the markets will react to it. So jobless claims and PPI at 8:30 this morning, nat gas at 10:30, 30-year auction at 1. So that's it. So I think the bulk of the news happens at 8:30, then we'll see how the market feels about it. And if they're going to try to trade back up, or if you're going to see further weakness. It's been holding in this area, so at least we're finding some temporary support here in that 55.80 area. We will see how that whole thing shakes out. If they're going to probe even lower, trying to probe it down in the 5,500 levels, it's just who knows? It could get a little bit gnarly. But at this point, there's a lot of pretty much everyone is getting hit when it comes to selling. They started off with a big techs, they got massively creamed, and then they're kind of rolling across the whole market. It was uncertainty. People are rolling out of equities into cash, somewhat into gold, I would think, but it hasn't been that crazy run on gold as I thought it would be. And bond market is trading lower, so it's not a flight to safety on the bonds. That's not the case either. So that's where we are, volatility and craziness. But so news at the 8:30, jobless claims, PPI, and margins are up before the PPI announcement. It'll come down right afterwards. So looking at this morning, I would say we're starting off range bound. Still trading this from the primarily from the short side, but starting off range bound with a bias to the downside. I would prefer the short side. So far they spent a couple of days, at least one day inside. That's yesterday, and now we'll see if we can get one more day here, but they don't extend to the downside. We may be in good shape, but at this point, well, that's what we are waiting for. What the market is likely to try to do after the PPI number. So starting off, I'm going to move this out of the way. The capital flow chart. The capital flow is still pointed lower. It looks like we may have found some support here. And a few sessions here, we've been trying to take it lower, but so far I've been defending it. But I'm going to be looking for short setups against the 56.10s, 56.20s, 30s, 40s, up to the 50s for rotations and back down. It came out pretty good, even 10s. So 56.10, 56.20, 56.30, 56.40, 56.50. Looking for short setups against those areas of resistance. Looking to buy against support with a lot of caution. Looking to buy against support at, we're trading right there. So first one's going to be at 55.60, 55.50. And below that, I would not be very aggressive on the long side at that point. I mean, we may see a test of that 55.35s. We may see a probe below that. This 54.20 level has been there for a long time. And I don't know at this point how strong that would be, but it's been there. It was a level way back in the day. So the first two levels, 55.60s and the 50s, are the ones I would probably look more aggressively on. Below the 50s, bets are off. I think may very well be probing the 35s or lower. So we will see how weak it gets, and it's really anyone's guess, because I mean, you had yesterday's CPI number was great. We have a big pop to the upside, and then just following that with a big freaking sell-off, and when it took it all the way down here to the 55.50. So from yesterday's trading, you just get a sense of volatile. This is the pop, CPI pop. The pop there right up here, then blew through the 50s. I thought they had a good shot at that. Okay, great. and then they just absolutely just nailed it. So, and it looks like any buying is getting met with selling at this point, and until that stops, we're not going to be trading higher, that's for sure. And on the way down, we're getting some bargain hunting. You've seen a couple of days where they've been trading higher into the afternoon, so that's a good sign. But then in the last half hour, 15 minutes, it's you see the reverse, like 1/3 or half of the that gain just before the close, and that's just all right. So nice profit taken. So it's kind of had to balance the intraday trading versus long-term investment at that point. So starting off range bound, I prefer the short side, looking to sell strength all the way up here to that 56.50s. On the way down, looking to buy against support. I mean, they have a support area at 55.75. The edges that's a tad lower right now, looks like. It moved a little bit, but 55.70, 55.60, 55.50 for rotations back up. So those are the support areas. And below 55.50, bets are off. I think at that point, we can certainly head a lot lower. So that's how we get started on the ES this morning. Looking at NASDAQ and the bonds. So bond market is trading lower. The 30-year bond is trading lower. It feels almost a bit counterintuitive. I mean, if it's a flight to safety going on, it's not flying. They're not moving to bonds because they're selling bonds. Net selling going on there. They're back to this attractor right here at the 116.08s in the overnight. And we'll see if they can hold that level. If they can hold it, we certainly can just trade back up and go back and forth. Looks to me like there's an area of volume here developing around the 116.08 and the 117.15s. Two small high volume areas. They're filling out pretty well. So there's a fair amount. If I fold these together like this, you see that you have a little bit of around the 116s, you need to fill out some volumes. You have two high volume area, one at 114.24, 117.16, and when there's a little small high volume node here at 116 in the middle. So chances are we may see the market trade between these two high volume areas. And at this point, at the 116.08, next level down is going to be the 114.20s. So we'll see how weak that gets, if it gets weaker. But at this point, the fact that the market is stalling, the bonds trading lower a bit, it gives you a little bit of hope that we may have found the bottom. Doesn't mean that they won't try to probe that. I think we're still very much in the early innings of a lot of volatility until this tariff war settles in and we know where people stand on it, or what people stand on. Remember this: just if you hear all this stuff about tariff war and higher prices and taxes, well, first of all, if you don't buy a U.S. good, if you don't buy a foreign good, you don't pay any tariff. If you buy a U.S. good, you don't pay the tariff. So that's not a tax. That's your choice to buy something else. The second thing is that you have the idea is that everyone lowers their tariffs, right? So if you have a tariff against the U.S. and the U.S. tariffs you back, if both lowers tariffs, everything gets lower. So that's the would be the other side of that, or no, well, I should say the second argument there. So I'm thinking that it could turn out to be a pretty good thing if tariffs actually go down. That's almost the point I wanted to make. That all this, everyone talks about everything increasing. It could just what could happen is just the reverse. So anyway, a little sidetrack there. Anyway, the NASDAQ also trading in a pretty good range, and here you are. Actually looks like they found a pretty good support area and in the 19,500s. We'll see if that holds up. And NASDAQ doesn't look as weak as the ES, though it is to the weak side of this. They're definitely below the bulk of volume from yesterday at the 19,600s. So I would do the same thing on the NASDAQ, starting off range bound with a bias to the downside, looking to sell strength. And at this point, I guess scroll this down like that. At this point, looking for short against the 530, a little bit less aggressive on that one. 620s, 680 to 90s, 730s, up to the 770s for rotations back and down again. So I would be looking for short setups again, all the way up here to the 770s. and you can see it snaps back. That's when it goes too far out of range. So Nasdaq has a lot of range, but I would start in this upper range. So when if they can get down to the 620s, I would look for short opportunities against 620, 680, 730 up to the 770 to 80s for rotations back down. Getting short against the 530 seems a bit aggressive. Looking for buying opportunities against these support areas, the 480s. Also, not to be super aggressive on that one. I think the better one is down in that 400s, the 330s down to the 270s. And I think if they head below the 270s, we are back. We are heading lower at that point. So that would be the level I would think is going to start an avalanche to the downside again. So looking to buy 19400s, 330s, 270s for rotations back up. Buying those with a bit of caution since we are biased to the downside. So the range bound biases to the downside to get started, looking to sell strength. Range bound trading is the reason I'm saying that is really just because it's we found a few spots of support here, and they haven't really they found a little bit of support in this area. Same on the ES. So at this point, I think we may have a shot of this holding, but you've seen this happen before when it stalls. They probe, and it's really just one day yesterday where we haven't really extended to the downside, and sometimes you get just that pause day, and then they keep going the next day. So it could very well be that we this repeats itself. But at this point, you're going to be starting off range bound, slight bias to the downside, and watch that 270 lower end of the E on the Nasdaq and the 530s on the 5530s on the ES for potential move to the downside. Those are the lower edges. They came out. I think we may look for another leg lower, and I could get into that one of the nasty sell-off territory, right? So we are already past the sell-off and the big deep sell-off. We're into the cringy sell-off, and now we may into the flat-out panic sell-off. So we're getting it. We're getting back past the 10% sell-off down, heading down to 15%. But remember, some of those big tech stocks we're looking at, they have been flat out crushed. I mean, they're down 30-40%. So it's the big tech has really taken it on the chin. Anyway, gold popped hit this area, the 29.39s yesterday, and so far they've been trading higher. So I would stay on the long side on gold at this point and see if they can run it up and test these upper edges, maybe even take it higher. So on gold, looking for a retest of that level at 29.65s, maybe higher. So this could be a part of the flight to safety, people hopping into gold instead. And that would be a sign of like a more global kind of fear if that happens. Or it kind of started happening, but we'll see if we get continuation on this. But trading this on the long side, we are up against this 29.50 attractor area. But I would be looking for a test of this 64s, maybe higher, and looking for shorts against that area. So shorts against the 56s, 64, 63s, 67s up to the 73s. Remember, we are still trading in the range, so we're still in this range. We're just kind of up against this upper area. So the fact that they're heading up here could be a start of a move, but they kind of had to clear a few of these resistance areas before we really start looking at that as a big move to the upside. So the bread and butter trade, always to test trade the failure, looking for a retest failure against these upper areas. So at this point, when it's moving like this, just be a little bit less aggressive on them, just to give you a little bit more a better setup. But I would still be looking for shorts against the 56s, 63s, 67s, and up to the 72s for rotations back down again. So that's gold. Trade that from the long side of the market, looking for shorts when they head up to when they start hitting those upper resistance areas. And then finally, oil. An orderly move to the downside. They go down, they go a little bit up, they start heading lower. Overall, these prices are going to come down. So they're doing quite a bit, and we're going to be rolling here soon to the May expiration. But looking at this, we are pretty much holding in this range. We haven't taken out the 68s, and they're heading back down again. We'll see. I would just stay range bound, and I would favor the short side on oil. I would not be super aggressive trying to get on those long trades, even if they tend to work. It's been pretty choppy to trade oil in that it kind of moves and then stalls and moves and stalls, and it's not like a nice trending day if you wish, where the market really moves. So I would be a bit less aggressive trading oil right now, but I would favor the short side, and at this point I would look to sell against the 67.50s, 67.80s, 68.20s for rotations back down. And buying against the 67s would be the only one I would look to buy against early on. If they take that out, I would just stay on the short side and see if they can run it lower from there. So yes, that level, 67, if they start trading, if they for a potential buying opportunity. All right, so that's oil and gold. Back to the ES, and back to the ES, and all right, they're still holding on here. So we got another about 8 minutes before we get news, jobless claims and the PPI number. So we will see how this whole thing shakes out after they get the news, and how the day session then treats it. If they're going to be well, what kind of reaction it's going to be, because it's anyone's guess how they're going to react to it. So alrighty, we'll wrap it there for now. So good trading, guys, and I will see you back at I will see you guys back at 11:30 for the next update. All right, guys, later.